Death to a Slave, podcast episode 1.
You are now tuning into a Death to a Slave podcast. Keep your ears and eyes wide open, quick thinking, fast moving to the modern day and time. I'm a man by many names, many aliases. For this luxurious environment, I'm gonna go by Luxury Codes.
What's poppin', family? This your boy Doc. I'm sitting here with my wonderful co-host. We're here to discuss some real life issues where we're gonna chop it up, we're gonna build, so don't go nowhere. Stay tuned.
Peace, everybody. My name is Sister Sacred. I am clearly the goddess of the room here. I'm ready to have a powerful and progressive dialogue on the Black community, so let's get into it.
You are now listening to the Death to a Slave podcast, a show where we have unapologetic conversations about the Black experience in America, with the goal of creating a paradigm shift from slave ship to ownership. Let's talk about it.
Episode 1, guys, we're getting into a heavy topic. I'm in a situation, is what we're gonna title this episode. So, before we begin, let's start with the cultural definition of a situation. What's situationship? What's the cultural definition of a situationship?
Situationship is an undefined relationship. Like, you know those relationships where, you know, there's no, maybe boundaries aren't set. There may not be a definitive idea of like, okay, where it's going, where it's heading, but clearly one or two parties benefit from the situation.
I agree with you. What I'll add on is, to me, it reminds me of like a lukewarm friends with benefits.
How? How? Slap Pappy! Girl, I didn't plan to. It just sort of happened.
And again, it's like there's these undefined titles and boundaries, but typically along the way, people have these strong emotional connections, but they're not ready to commit fully to the relationship. So that's my kind of description of what a situationship is.
I would, but also I would add with a situationship, because the term friends with benefits has pretty much always been around. It's been around for ages. But I think now, like in this generation, it's a lot more common and it's a lot more accepted than it was in years ago. Like we kind of idolize like the side, not idolize, but we glorify, you know, like having a side piece or the side piece or having the main. Like that's normal conversation in the culture now. So I think it's a lot more widely accepted than it was back in the day.
Do you think it's the same thing as, like, I guess I say back in the day, that's a term I like to use, like it's complicated, you know, the Facebook status is complicated. I feel like it's very similar to that.
You bringing it back with Facebook. You was poking people, wasn't you?
No, I never use that feature, by the way.
Oh, okay. It's a little suspect in this day and age.
But
I mean, I hate to come off incredibly poetic, but the way I define situationship is the perpetual gray. So it's not black and white, as you guys said, it's undefined. And what makes it grow into a situationship, because you can date someone, but what makes it a situationship is when you find yourself perpetually asking yourself these questions about who are we, what are we doing, you know what I'm saying? Are we together, are we not? Are we together, but are we in a relationship? Is she my girlfriend? Am I her boo? Am I her nigga?
Okay, so typically in these situations, y'all help me out here. So I feel as though usually the individuals are dating more than one person. So is that situationship the person they like the most?
That's not necessarily the case.
I don't think it necessarily means that it's more than one person. I think it just means that it's undefined. Like you can't like there's nothing wrong with two people saying that they're not in a committed relationship and understanding the reasons why. Like if you're working on yourself, getting your shit together, like, you know, I don't define that as a situationship where one or both parties are unclear of where this is heading, what's coming out of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're reaping certain benefits from the relationship, we should be clear on where this is going, or where you stand with me or where I stand with you. Like we should be clear, because we're all adults. Like no one should be in the dark or wondering where this is heading, where this is going. So I think when there's an uncertainty or there's no clarity, that's what makes it a situationship.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between a situationship and an open relationship.
I agree.
There's a difference between situationship and even friends with benefits. It develops into a situationship, like he said, when you find yourself questioning. So it's all about it being definitive, it being black and white, there being boundaries, some lines that need to be set, some parameters. So I have a question for you guys. Who benefits, male or female?
there's always one of the two parties who initiate this kind of game. Because at some point, I feel like it is playing a game. So I feel like whoever initiates that, the problem or the uncertainty, like if someone poses a question like, what are we? And the other person gives you the runaround, maybe
We're just
they're the one that
ordinary
benefits
people.
the most. So I don't know if it's necessarily the male or the female. It just depends on who starts playing those games or are unable to answer those questions when one of the parties gets serious.
Yeah, I think once emotions get involved, like I wouldn't say male or female, but I think men and women say, even when it's the open relationship or whatever, it's, they want to, they can have a relationship without emotion attached, without string attached, but that rarely happens. Like both sides, like, women play the game, men play the game, but the minute emotions get involved and you got feelings for a person, but you can't really show it, that's when you take an L.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying. Okay.
So to elaborate a bit more on that, are we hustling backwards when it comes to participating in situationships?
There's nothing wrong with saying like, all right, I don't have my shit together yet, or I'm working on myself so I can qualify myself for the right partner. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I think this is the problem in our culture nowadays, is that this is widely accepted, like, as the norm. There's always been friends with benefits, but a 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, 5-year situationship, multiple situationships, I think we hustling backwards. Like, we talk a lot about, building wealth nowadays, the generational wealth. Everyone's in crypto and everyone's investing, everyone's building wealth and getting their finances in order. But how you building generational wealth or, building something and you don't have the proper structure to pass it on with? Like, the family unit, the family structure is needed to pass down wealth. That's why we keep losing, like, as a whole, like, as a culture. So I don't want to get too deep, and go too far with it, but I think in the long run, we're hustling backwards because we need the family unit. We need male and female, husband and wife, children. We need that structure in order to pass down wealth.
I agree with you. I just feel that it's a certain point we need to stop blaming it on, I'm getting my shit together. Because at a certain point, you can grow with an individual. Like, that's okay. That's the whole point of building.
Yeah.
What I see oftentimes is if people get their shit together, right? It takes them still an extremely long time to find someone that matches their energy or their level. So why not build with somebody, I don't know, I don't want to say the rudimentary level, but while you're building yourself up, it's okay to date one individual.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of options out here, Sister Sacred.
That is true, too.
You know what I'm saying? For a high value man like myself, it's a lot of options. And how am I supposed to navigate those options, especially when you're on a path to success? So you're surrounding yourselves with beautiful people. I'm a heterosexual male, so I'm surrounding myself with people of the opposite sex.
Beautiful.
And they're attracted to me. Are we supposed to have more self-control as men? When it comes to them approaching you, and because they'll approach me, they want to engage in some capacity. Is the expectation that every time you engage, it's going to develop into a relationship?
No, you can't say that necessarily. It just depends on each party's intentions. But going back to what you're saying, I understand there's a lot of options. Clearly, there's a social desire to have this perfect woman or man, and what I call it is, I know this is probably not a word, but Frankensteining piecing people together.
Build-A-Bear.
Facts.
Yeah, Build-A-Bear. Certain
Facts.
attributes, and you want this perfect person, so you're never going to find what you truly want. You're just going to be on this everlasting search for this perfect person. But for you, what is your vetting process? Because there are going to be some things that doesn't fit the bill. Your vetting process when you're dating. So this woman needs to meet what qualities for you to actually be in a committed
I feel like you said, right? Like, a lot of times we have this quintessential mate that we want, the perfect woman, the baddie who's smart, does this 10 things, and women have the same. They want an athletic man who's reserved but not shy, like all these things. And I feel like if you have 10 items, you're never gonna find a person that has all 10 items, but someone's gonna have most of those items. And I think, like I was saying before, to my point earlier of like getting your shit together and knowing yourself, Because I read a quote one time that said, you can only meet a person as deep as you met yourself. Yeah. I think once you know yourself and you understand yourself, you know what you need as a counterpart. You're going to know it immediately because you're going to know your strengths, your weaknesses, and you're going to recognize that easily in the person because you know yourself. So I think once you can identify that, then it's a lot easier to say, okay, this is the kind of person I'm betting. Because I keep it honest, like, I can tell immediately if someone is not going to work and I don't entertain it. I can tell immediately because I know what I'm looking for and I know what I want. I know what I need.
Okay, so knowing yourself is cool and all, bro. Yeah. But how long does it take you to know yourself?
I was just about to pose that question.
And like, is there an age restriction on situationships? Is there a boundary that you shouldn't cross in your participation in such behavior?
If you're 40 plus, bro, hang it up. Like, you shouldn't be out here playing the game. Hang it up, bro. Hang it up.
So you gotta hang the jersey up?
You gotta hang it up.
That's crazy, man.
If you're 40 plus and you playing the game, like, I'm not saying you can't date at 40, of course. Like, people find love in different ages or at different points in their life. They remarry. But if you playing the game, like, okay, I'm out here, just seeing what's what, undefined, like, hang it up, bro.
At 40.
You can date at 40 plus, but I think if you playing the game, like, I'm gonna just get whatever comes to me, and I'm out here, no certainty, like, hang it up, bro.
What do you think, Sister Sacred? You think it's the big 4-0? You think the 4-0 is the limit right there?
I guess the way you're describing it, yes, because if they're playing that game, like if they're just bouncing around from woman to woman, they're playing the game as long as they can. If they're dating and they're serious, yeah, I mean, I guess I could accept 40s, maybe 35. I lower the bar. 5 years.
Yeah, you're putting a lot of pressure. You're putting a lot of pressure on.
Pressure in the room.
Like, when do y'all get serious? I think men have delayed adolescence, so that's why y'all got this different.
I mean, I think women do mature faster than women in certain capacities.
What do you want to say, boys? You don't want me calling you a boy?
No, I mean, I think culturally there is a shared delayed adolescence. I don't think it's one-sided.
I think that's just now starting to emerge with the side of women, because like we can get a conversation about savages and stallions. I think that's why that mentality is there now. But I would say generally that women mature definitely faster than men, especially on the relationship end.
I don't feel like you really tap in to the digital conversation that's transpiring on socials.
Fact.
If you were to see, like, follow this page, Niggas Be Broke Okay. Follow that page. It's the sister page.
It's the female Justin
LeBoy.
It's the female perspective to Justin
LeBoy.
Fact.
And then you'll see that
it's I follow both.
Okay,
actually.
and there's a shared delayed adolescence. But we won't.
You don't think that's like just now emerging? You think that's
just
been the
now?
case? Like,
I went to college.
Okay, but that's still recent to me.
It's
like, that's pretty recent.
I don't mean to call out my age or anything, but like a decade ago,
In college, what do you expect in college, though? I don't know. I feel like situationships are definitely thriving during that time period.
Well, we won't harbor too much on that. Let's get into, we talked about situationships. Mm-hmm. Let's get into why monogamous relationships are advantageous, or if they are advantageous at all.
In a positive marriage, right? Mm-hmm. Let's start there, because there are some toxic ones out there. I think if you're interconnected with one person, there are a lot of benefits. I know you like touched on wealth and financial wealth, basically generating that with another person. But just health-wise, like
that too.
A lot of people don't want to die alone, clearly, right? I mean, as you get older, you're gonna tap out of the game. I'm be honest with you. These situationships probably won't be as easy to get into, whatever have you. But definitely with health, it improves with the other person, like the mutual benefits of that. So you're probably likely to live longer. We could talk about sexual health. You know what I'm saying? We could talk about you building, sustaining one another. But no one wants to die alone. I'll be honest with you. Like, you want to build, and that's a problem in the Black community. Like, in a lot of different aspects, it's the longevity. Right. Like the long-term commitments. Like, we have an issue with that.
Facts.
Not just in relationships, but like that's what wealth is about. Like you have to do that over time. It's a commitment. It's sacrifices.
I make sacrifices, bloody sacrifices.
I think that's what's wrong with society today. They want the perfect relationship all the time. That does not exist. You got to work on it. It's easy to get in a relationship, but maintaining it is a whole nother thing. So there are a lot of benefits, but it takes a lot of work.
Indeed. We have an interesting data point that we'd like to include. A lot of illnesses develop because of the anxiety that isolation produces. So loneliness levels have reached an all-time high, with nearly half of 20,000 U.S. adults reporting that sometimes or always feel alone. 40% of survey participants also reported that they sometimes or always feel that their relationships are not meaningful and they feel isolated.
I think with that, when you get in a relationship, you have to be willing to hear the other person out. When they're weak, when they're strong, there's a lot of envy. Probably in relationships across all races, but with blacks specifically, there's a lot of envy within the relationship, and you can't do that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're gonna hit a brick wall. It's just not. It's not advantageous at all. Like if you that person should be your peace when you come home.
Right.
If you're hating on them, if they leveling up and you feel like they taking whatever away from you, or you can't pursue your goals, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think that quote, the second one you quoted, it speaks more to envy. So when you get into a relationship, you have to know how to be vulnerable, be transparent about what's going on to maintain that relationship in a healthy way.
I think that monogamy is advantageous because it's a contractual agreement, whether it be verbal, whether it be marriage, when it's actually documentation attached to it. But what contracts do is mitigate injurious behavior. You know what I'm saying? Like there are parameters, there's a structure, there's a standard, and you have to abide by these standards. You have to honor that standard. And what situationships don't protect people from is that injurious behavior, whether male or female. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it's advantageous. You talked about mental health.
Yeah.
We talked about sexual health. Those also play a role as well.
Yeah. I just want to hop on briefly what you mentioned too, like the anxiety aspect of being lonely. Like, you know what I mean? Like we all have, grandparents or we know elders or whatever, and anxiety amongst seniors is a real thing. Loneliness or like family not being around and not having a support system. That's a real thing that, we just got to do a better job at, helping our seniors. But, growing up lonely, growing up by ourselves, that's a real threat that a lot of us in the black community do face. So, I'm sure we don't want to face that. It seems like a lifetime away because, we think in the moment a lot. But building a life that sustains you when you get older, when you're 60, 70, 80, that's advantageous. Like, we got to think about those things.
I mean, we spoke on situationships, we defined it, we spoke on how advantageous monogamy can be. So ideally, we know it can be advantageous. What's stopping us? Are we afraid to grow up?
Let's start here. It's definitely a fear of missing out. Like I said, the environment that we're in today, we always have the perception that something's out there that's better. And that feeds a lot of doubt in a lot of people's mind about relationships and the partner they want to select. So again, it's going back to that Build-A-Bear kind of idea. Like you always feel like something's out there better. So you just keep playing this game.
Yeah.
It's a society. It is. Like we talk about this digital.
I feel like social media gives us the illusion of options. Like back in the days, I for lack of a better term, but like when we grew up, people would say, I'm sure we know people who got married at 21, 22, 23, and they're still married to this day, and they have successful marriages. Not to say that can't exist today, but they didn't have social media, they didn't have Instagram, they didn't have this illusion of options that if it doesn't work out with this person, I can literally be talking or DMing or come in contact with someone on my page or immediately. Like access to sex through social, like it's way different than it was back in the days. Like, so there's a lot more external forces that if you're not grounded right, can destroy like your marriage or your relationship. Like there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
I mean, philosopher Aubrey Graham once said, and every time I think of staying with her, she bring that friend around and make a nigga reconsider.
And every time I think of staying with her, she bring that friend around and make it reconsider. And then
Nice.
I mean, you guys kind of summed it up. There's like this insatiable desire to keep up with social and digital, to keep up with that kind of environment and what's happening, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, people do things for the gram.
That's
You
what
know
I'm
what I'm
saying. They
saying?
don't show all the
Like we
bag.
post the food, we post a Birkin bag, you know what I'm saying?
Everything all
Well,
good
people
on
don't be
the
having
gram.
Birkins. I'm not gonna gas that. But they, you know, whatever
Based off the
drip
stats.
we got, you know what I'm saying? Like she might just post the body of him with the meal. He might just post the hand.
No face, no case.
No
is what we
face,
call
no
it.
case.
No face, no case.
So
Or
when
they
we
put
talk
the clown, or they put an
The
emoji
emoji
on
on
the
the
face,
face. Clown emoji.
like a clown, or it's getting crazy.
So when we
out
talk
here.
about social media, do you guys think it's because we're overstimulated that we suffer from the prescribed notion of situationship?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. One, being overstimulated, but two, just in general, like divorce rates are high in this country, and a lot of times, I think when we hear like married couples, married couples mention things very passive aggressively, like, I'm stuck with this guy, I'm stuck with him, or I got the ball, where it's like, if I'm not married, or if I don't know what marriage life is like, that may scare me. I can see why a person may not want to get married because their examples, or when they hear people speak on marriage, it's from a very passive aggressive. Like if it's not bad, then it's passive aggressive. Like I think there would have to be more examples of successful marriages, or marriages that, as a young person, will make me want to live my life like that.
I do agree with that. And I think maybe with the social media world, and going back to like good models of marriages, like even with celebrities, I think people don't necessarily feel positive about it. So everybody used to look up to like Will and Jada, Jay-Z and Bae. Clearly, no, I'm just saying. No, I'm saying it's serious. Like even in songs they would drop that, but I feel as though
That Will and Jada love. That was everybody goes
or
to
even
ball.
with Jay-Z and Beyonce, I think now people are gravitating towards Sierra and Russell Wilson more so.
We'll get to that.
But yeah, we will. But I think there are not a lot of good examples, even from our Black households. We don't see those positive relationships or those long-term relationships, so we don't necessarily know how to deal with them or gravitate towards them.
And keep it a buck, shit don't be looking wavy.
Yeah.
Like this is the era where optics matter.
That's what I would argue.
And
like
we want to look
think,
wavy. Like
I don't think on the mainstream level there may be any good examples. Like like Russell and Ciara and J&B. Like those are goals, #goals, but that's not an example of marriage. Like, that's an example of the appearance. Like that's an example of the outward expression of marriage.
Yeah.
But the work it takes to build a relationship, the work, like the inner work, like the vulnerable moments, having the hard conversations when you don't want to have them. Like that's the part of marriage that we don't see. And how do we see that? Everything is so, we want, in this generation, we don't look at the process. We just look at the end result.
That's what it
we
is.
emulate the end result. So how do we learn that? Like, how do we learn these skills that we obviously lost or don't have? Like, how do we learn these skills that it takes to build a good marriage? Because there are good marriages out there, but we don't see those examples. And for a young person, like you said, it's all about optics, all about visuals. I want to know, can I still, be comfortable in who I am and live my life how I see fit with this person? Like, how do you do that? Those are questions, like deeper questions that this generation, I don't think we have a clear example or, something to point to.
Doc, okay, let's peel back the layers a bit more. Situationships are usually aligned with toxicity. You just talked about why we struggle with monogamous relationships. What, specifically pertaining to our community, what is at the root of our toxic behavior?
The root, I think, one of the main things is trauma. We don't, it's with relationships, there are a lot of things. If you got unresolved trauma, if you got mommy, daddy issues, if you had issues as a child, whatever issues, they're gonna come out in that relationship in different ways. You may not know immediately, but they're gonna express themselves in the relationship with how you respond to people, how you deal with people. Sometimes if if you had a void from your childhood, these are things that are gonna express themselves in a relationship that you're gonna yearn for in that relationship, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So I think that's a big part of, our issues. One, family trauma, but two, just trauma of being black in America. Like, there are things that are unique to our experience that are not, that we find similarities in other cultures, and there are things that are unique to the black experience that we have to acknowledge. And if we don't understand ourselves, first, individually, but as a unit, like man and woman, if we don't understand ourselves in that context, then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice.
Yeah, but I think that's why we need each other. So going back to
Facts.
trauma, I know everyone experienced some form of trauma, but for black people, we experienced a lot of trauma. Like, we're born into toxic stress, and oftentimes when it comes to the relationship, it's either some type of survival love where they're just surviving, they're just trying to do the best they can, or they're really vibing with each other, they really love each other, they're trying to build that family. And I think that's where it's coming from. We see a lot of bad relationships, and we just see them trying their best to maintain and survive. So I think that's where it comes from, a lot of the toxic relationships. But I agree with you. A lot of these unresolved things will show up if you don't know how to address them. And I know a lot of people don't know how to address their trauma. It takes sometimes going to a mental health professional, or it takes a partner that is patient with you, and then helping you be comfortable in being vulnerable and being transparent about your situations, and in some relationships, some people don't want to deal with trauma.
Right.
Like, they don't want to deal with it at all. And I think that shouldn't happen in the black community. We have so much going on. Like, you should want to help your partner when they're down and they're low. You know what I'm saying? I think that's where a lot of the toxic behaviors come from. We have a lot of triggers. We don't know how to deal with it.
When you talked about vulnerability, being comfortable with being vulnerable. Like,
that's the issue.
men, we do it a lot where we want to impress women, or we want to live up to the idea that she has of us. And women the same, but I think the vulnerability, like being comfortable with expressing ourselves without being ridiculed or judged, and I think that's something that we have to grow towards, like as a collective. I
do think black men definitely have more challenges with being expressive and being vulnerable. But like I said, and I'm not saying all women have to do this, but your partner, if they're willing to work with you, I think that's what matters the most. But the other, who's ever going through that traumatic experience, have to be open to, expressing themselves over time. But you can't bum rush the person. Like I said, usually if someone has a lot of trauma and you trigger that, they're gonna be aggressive, they're gonna be silent, they're gonna be dismissive. And you don't want those kind of reactions in a relationship, because over time, if you're not dealing with the person's trauma well, it's going to be a major blow-ups in a relationship. And then the other person's going to end up having probably more trauma when leaving a relationship,
I actually wanted to read another data point that pertains to the conversation. It says here that Black Americans have the highest rates of single parenthood and non-marital births in the country, and this divergence from the two-parent family ideal is routinely implicated in the lower levels of educational attainment and higher rates of poverty and unemployment within the Black community. So the unchecked and unresolved trauma has real-life social and economic implications. You know what I'm saying? So that stems back to situationships, monogamous relationships being more advantageous. Does. I know. We're going to move into that vulnerability conversation, but we're going to switch it up a little bit. We're going to switch it up and kind of delineate it between the two genders within our community. Are Black women fatigued by the notion of their needs not being met?
I think I think across women, Black women, the needs differ. But what I do see a lot is that it's an income issue, and for me, that's not one of the unmet needs. I'm willing to work with a person as far as their income, but I guess I want to pose a question like, what do you guys feel the needs are not? What do you think the needs of women are? Like, what are the type of women that you engage with? What are the problems that they express? Because income is not one for me. It's more of an emotional thing, being emotional available to me, and knowing that I'm trying to better our relationship. And you're trying to block that.
I mean,
that's one of my needs.
I can hold you like I'm probably not probably, but one of my issues is that right now, like, I feel like I'm definitely like emotionally unavailable to really like nurture the right relationship. Like I'm probably like not the best example for that, but most women I engage with are kind of like with are really looking for someone who's really a companion, a partner who's on their level, who they can like build with. A lot of women are looking to build, like they either at an age or a point in their life where they're looking to build something, and I think that's what most women want right now is like a partner that they can build with.
But is it that you don't pursue that woman because like if she wants to build with you, if you feel like you're not at a certain point in life, your goals as far as income, career, whatever those opportunities are, because you don't want to show the person your true self, is that why you don't engage in a relationship, even though you know you're building? Like, at what point?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I feel like a part of me doesn't engage as much because of that, but I mean, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. Like,
I mean, let's be real, and ladies, I love y'all, but there's this interesting rhetoric that's been permeating socials, and that's been like become kind of like the status quo. But like, City Girl said it in my pussy talk: Gucci, Louis, Chanel, Birkin, YSL. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, that's the one you engaging with? Nah.
Oh, the question is
because she was saying like, what are the needs of the women like?
What do they use to express?
Oh, women want attractive, wealthy, muscularly sculpted, faithful entrepreneurs with a stranglehold on time and space. That's what they want.
Not stranglehold on time and space.
Yeah, they want you to wake up, get to a bag, but still somehow have the entire day to lay up with them. She don't really work like that.
They want you to be reserved, don't talk to no one, but not shy.
They want you to be lit on these streets, but only
don't
to them.
Don't talk to no one.
No, don't talk to them, but be lit, network, but don't talk. They make it make sense.
So you don't get a lot of challenges like with the emotional, like you're not emotionally available for them?
I feel like I'm emotionally, I'm light skinned.
What does that mean?
Oh, I fit the archetype. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Typical like,
hey, sleeping alone. Hey, sleeping alone. Yeah, y'all listen to Drake. Y'all listen to Drake. Come on, no, cut it out. I'm emotionally there. You know what I'm saying? I'm just busy. Like we said, trying to build generational wealth. You know what I'm saying?
You gotta ask the women he's engaging with.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
you gotta ask the women he's engaging
I'm deflecting.
with.
I'm deflecting.
It's just self-validation again. We've talked about this before.
The women that I'm engaging with, like, what issues do they have with Ishmael in particular?
No, but like, what are they looking for from a man, or like, what are they want out of the relationship?
They're looking for all of that. Oh, time.
What you looking for? That's the question.
All right, what am I looking for in a woman? I think I'm looking for someone that supports my mission.
All right.
That's what every man was looking
someone
for.
that's understanding of like why I do the things I do, because the optic may look like it's very one-dimensional, but it's very layered, it's very complex, it's very nuanced. Like, they look at me and just think fashion. It's like, it's not about fashion, it's storytelling, it's film, it's
looking for someone who gets
culture,
that.
it's our cultural currency and our ability.
He's looking for someone that gets that same, like,
they think about
the
you
why
on the
to why, you know what I mean?
And with Ishmael, there's a why to everything with luxury codes.
It sounds
there's a why to everything.
There's a surface, basically, level that they're thinking of you, like of how they perceive you.
Yeah, so I think like they have to understand that. So I look for understanding, support, and then I also look for time, space, because I need to get in my isolation mode at times. Even when we're in the same trip together, I need to get in my isolation mode and
Let me
really
ask you a question though.
find space to create.
If you find that person has all of those qualities, you wifing her up?
That's all I say.
Right
What makes you want to stay?
You wifing her up right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
If you find someone with all those qualities right now, you wifing that?
Yeah. What y'all mean? Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'm wifing
I posed
it.
the question, that's all.
I'm wifing it. Listen,
I
I'm a veteran, man. I've been in this game.
I'm done.
You know what I'm saying? I already put in the work. I did what I did. I'm in the
hang
Hall
your
of
jersey
Fame.
up.
You
You
need
can
to
hang
I'm in
your
the Hall
retire.
of
I'm like,
Fame.
you need to retire.
You can hang that jersey
Yeah, I
up.
can hang it up anytime. Like, anytime.
I feel like most times though, like, you know,
I'm gonna have my press conference first. You know what I'm saying? First off, I want to thank all the fans who supported me over the years. You know.
I feel like most times though, like, that's an issue. Like, when that person arrives or presents themselves in your life, are you ready to deal with that or, you know what I mean, like nurture that relationship?
I mean, yes, I would be open to it if I did stumble upon that person. Like, I'd definitely be open to it.
Competition.
And I'm a lot more disciplined than I lead on. I know if I can dedicate myself to my faith, that I can curb all desires.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a master of my own fate.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. But yeah, let's not talk about me so much, guys. Like, you know,
It wasn't just you.
Me sharing.
It
like,
wasn't him.
She posed a question to everybody.
Okay.
He decided to dive deep.
All right, sorry.
To each his own.
I went off on a tangent. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
Some
Well,
may call it deflection, but, you know, we leave that alone.
Let's get back
Leave
on
that alone.
I'm sorry. Let's get back on track, though. Let's again continue to peel back these layers. The reason why we chose this topic is not only because it's a hot button issue, but it also has like an underlying effect on our community. Is there a hidden hand affecting the black family? And then how does that pertain to situationships, to the perpetual gray?
I definitely say yes. There's always a hidden agenda against black people. I'm sorry to say that. Not really. But
They're gonna call you a conspiracy theorist.
I don't care. Okay, this is why it's called Death to a Slave. I do not care.
We do not care.
We running this. But yeah, that's always the destruction of the black family and the instability. It goes all the way back to slavery, racism, white terrorism. We can go on and on and on and on, right?
Blow after blow after blow.
I'm just saying. But the black family bond was severed at the auction. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure if you guys know, but Willie Lynch, who was a British slave owner, he made sure he had this process to ensure that black people, the family, behaved in a slave mentality, which still persists today. So when it comes to the black destruction of the destruction of the black family, it starts back in slavery. It really does.
Indeed.
So what happened in those times is, so they would make sure the image of the man was destroyed in front of their women.
They were
Bug breaking.
Yes.
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 Buck breaking.
Yes, buck breaking. And so that put the woman in a frozen state of psychological independence. So with her offspring, she would teach them to, especially the males, to be afraid, and for the women, of course, to be like her. So, and that happens over time. Like, we can look at the government assistance. We look at the housing, right? They offer women. If they find a shoe, a male shoe up in there, you out. You gotta go. You can't receive our assistance no more. There's always, they don't want the black male to be present. So yes, that's always a hidden agenda. Always.
I agree. I think it also, like, I mean, the socio-historical context is obviously there, but it's like, even women are more educated technically than in our community.
Right.
And I think, like, it's damn near everything is intentional. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you said, the removal of the black man,
Yeah.
mass incarceration. So it's not just this, I mean, it starts with slavery, but you mentioned all these systemic issues
Over time. Yeah.
that continue this form of oppression.
Yeah.
And then, of course, psychologically speaking, we internalize it. You know, we internalize the oppression
That was
and
a
trauma,
whole-
and then it becomes
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right. That was a whole purpose, though, of
Yeah.
Willie Lynch.
Yeah.
That's the mindset he wanted us to have.
Yeah, for sure.
Change it and
Facts.
for us to be against each other. So there's exactly was a goal.
Toxic masculinity.
Oh my God.
Savages, stallions. Let's talk about that. Why is that problematic? Sister Sacred. First of all, where did toxic masculinity come from?
Well, it's actually odd. So this psychology professor actually coined the phrase. I can't remember when it was, but it's actually
I think it was the 80s, I believe.
It's actually the opposite of what we view toxic masculinity to be today. It actually was like a men's movement where he wanted men to be more connected with their emotions.
Right.
Teach.
Today, that means something totally opposite. It's open for interpretation. I think toxic masculinity is horrible because a woman can be toxic just like a man can be.
Tell him, Queen. Talk to him. Talk to him. And I mean, why can't men be men? And what I mean by that, and we're gonna get into that because that's complex. But it's like we can't. So women can openly critique men, have discourse about men, but when men do it, it's woman bashing. Like within our personal experience, if you talk about like some of the comments that I've mentioned thus far, after this, they're gonna be some people that come for me.
It's all right, the trolls gonna come.
Yeah, that's a fact. But it's like, so we can't feel, bro. Like we can't have emotions. Like we can't be like, we can't accuse you guys of wrongdoing. Like, but it's niggas ain't shit. It's this nigga do this, he do that, cheating ass, bum ass. All of that exists, and y'all able to get y'all shit off.
Facts.
Oh yeah, y'all able to get y'all shit off.
Now y'all know
It doesn't.
it's true though.
I'm not saying there's no truth.
Okay,
But why do black women have a problem with accountability?
First of all, I don't have a problem with accountability. Let's make that known for the record here. I don't think that's the case at all.
Yeah.
Let's say some.
Now,
Let's say some.
Okay.
Some just like some black men have issues.
Gonna be buzzing.
Yeah, obviously no generalizations made. That was an emotional question.
I don't know if I want to kind of go back though, like to why this may exist. So like, I think black women, they've been tired of how they've been portrayed by white people, but in black music.
I agree.
And I know, and now the gears are switching now. So I hate to say this, but black women acting like niggas out here, like out in the streets. I'll be honest with you. So I think now they're like, what? You're not accountable. I ain't gonna be accountable either. That's why I think it's happening right now.
Okay,
I don't think
fair.
that women can't take any criticism from men. I don't think that's the case. I just think they just tired of the shit that's transpired over the years. And so now they're gonna act just like men. That's a problem that we're having right now. That's my understanding.
And I mean, to balance it out, like whenever I have like these points of criticism, I also celebrate the black women as well. Like for one, there's no woman that's as supportive, willing to stand by their men, quite like black women. So like, yeah, though these narratives exist, and I speak of these narratives candidly, I usually also mention the other narrative that's present, because they're happening at the same time. Yeah. It's not, and I misspoke when I said that, why do black women? I didn't mean to make a generalization. Because there are a great deal of black women who come to the defense of black men when it comes to a lot of these social issues, which is huge in the culture today. Yeah. And then on top of that, like notoriously, historically, they've been right beside us. Right. Yeah. So like, let me not get that twisted. I just wanted to make that disclaimer first and foremost. But like, what I was speaking to was emotional because
on both sides.
Yeah, because
we need more accountability
and more
on
discourse.
both sides. But what Ishmael was saying is that women have oftentimes women have the lane, or it's okay for them to express their dissatisfaction, their emotions. But the minute a man does it, it's either shunned upon, or he being a bitch nigga, or it's like, all right, it's not really received well. Not all, but we'd be naive to say that there isn't an issue of accountability in the black community.
And I wouldn't say that. I think for me, I need an example. So what are you saying to give me an example. What would you say to a black woman that couldn't accept or be accountable or receive that criticism? I need an example for that. Because I just don't see that they're not necessarily fully accepting.
You feel like women let men express themselves?
I let my men express themselves.
Okay. Friends of yours, generally speaking, there's open, you're allowed to be open and express like how you feel about things. Or do you feel like you gotta be tough? You gotta throw in a certain exterior. You have to fit a certain optic.
I think men probably walk on eggshells with women as far as expressing themselves. So I can't say that.
Yeah.
Some men.
Some men. So I don't think they're expressing it. They're not even expressing it to get that reaction from the woman. I think that's happening more so. That men are walking on eggshells and not even voicing their concerns because they already know the reaction they're going to receive, the response they're going to receive.
I think it ties back to an earlier point that we made about vulnerability and not being scared to be vulnerable. Sometimes it could be projected from the woman, but sometimes it's just as men, like if you're not comfortable or secure in your manhood, like sometimes someone could, take you off course, and you may feel like you got to walk on eggshells and not express certain things.
That's a fact.
And we feel like we have to meet up to all these expectations to be a quintessential man, and no chinks in your armor. Like men live up to these unrealistic expectations a lot. And again, like sometimes it's projected from the woman, but sometimes it's a man just having insecurities, and it happens on both sides too.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. I agree. Okay, so we've discussed our challenges throughout this entire podcast. Let's celebrate our wins. There are some people out there that are representing us well. Relationship goals, as they say, Sister Sacred. Would you like to elaborate on who you feel is representing us the right way?
I can give you all an example. Let me just say this for the record. I don't necessarily look up to these celebrities or whatnot, but that's what is available on social media. I don't really know the other people's lives like that. They don't put it out there. They only, they do it for the gram. I don't know anything else about these people. However, I have been watching Sierra for a very long time because,
Queen.
Back in the day, I used to dance to her old school songs.
Oh.
But
My goodies.
Yes, my goodies.
Not my goodies.
But I love the way she's definitely evolved across all of her relationships. And so with Russell Willis right now. Is it Wilson? Wilson, Lord.
She has a problem with athletes, guys.
I do. I have a problem with him. I do. It's so beautiful. Now, I know some people think the way that they display their love is probably fabricated, but I don't believe that. I believe she's truly evolved, and he's a wonderful stepfather and a father to their children. I think they actually display what real love is.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Like I said, I don't know these celebrities from the back of my hand.
I don't know the ins and outs of the relationship, and like you said, I don't idolize any celebrities as goals because
it's hard.
I would rather emulate like successful marriages or people relationships that I know. But do you think it's true? I seen something online where it's saying that women want a man who acts like Russell Wilson, but who looks like Future, but acts like Russell Wilson.
Now that is a problem. Let me tell you.
That's what it is.
These girls want a hood nigga that meditate, that cuddle, that it's crazy. Yeah. They definitely want the bad boys. That's definitely.
They want the dude who looks like Future but behaves like Russell Wilson.
Yeah, it's impossible.
I think that's definitely true. Not possible. That's true.
But I will say this though, like one thing that I do know about the relationship, again, I don't know the ins and outs, but I've seen them both talk about how they manifested that relationship, how before they were together, like things that they wanted in a partner and that they prayed for. And I think that's something that, like something to emulate. Not them, but like manifestation and like what you want to, like what you desire in your life or in a partner, like bringing that or willing that into existence. I think that's
when they both said they prayed for that relationship. Everybody was asking, "What was a prayer? You need to recite this prayer. I need to copy this prayer. I need this man in my life." That was real. People were definitely encouraged by that.
I just think it's also super dope how he stepped in.
Yeah.
And it's just honorable. Because that's not, that didn't come from your loins necessarily.
Right.
For you to
and not a lot of men are willing to step up and take that responsibility.
An active role in the life of a child that isn't yours biologically is very honorable. And I actually would like to read a quote from Bro because like it kind of touched me to some degree. He said, like my dad did for me. And so I think the greatest thing that I've ever learned in life is probably in that relationship with Future, meaning Little Future. Because the reality of being a step-parent is that biologically they're not necessarily yours, but the reality is that you have to love them as if they are. They're your own blood in a way. You get to love them that way. And I think that every kid deserves that and needs that and yearns for that.
Yeah, I believe that whether the parent is in the life or not, you know what I'm saying? Like whether Sierra and Big Future, if they were co-parenting, they were doing the right way. And if she got married, clearly, they should still step up to their plate regardless. I think that's a union that forms. So whatever comes with that partner,
that's an attachment.
It's an attachment. That now becomes yours.
You gotta love everything
and
attached to that person.
Your responsibility. Yes.
Facts.
So we talked about challenges. We talked about wins of ours in the culture. I think how we sum it all up is choosing our own happiness. Be accountable for your behaviors because they can be injurious, but at the end of the day, you got to do what's right for you and your partner. You know what I'm saying? And it's difficult to judge that, but I still think ideally monogamy is probably the best route in establishing wealth and establishing and solidifying a community. You know what I'm saying? Because if we're able to replicate that model, that only benefits us from destabilizing and deconstructing the slave mentality.
And I agree with that. And let me just add something. So I know you said choose your own happiness. I think a lot of people fail to know what happy is without a person. I think you have to find, you need to know that before you get in a relationship. You can't get in a relationship and put that's heavy to put on somebody like, oh, you make me happy. No, you should be happy. Right. You should know what that is before you get in a relationship. You should know yourself before you get in your relationship. So choose your own happiness before you get into a relationship. I do agree with that.
I can't make you happy. You can't make me happy. We can find happiness together. But I don't want to be the sole reason that someone's happy. I don't want to be the sole reason that someone smiles. Like, if you can't do that on your own, then it means you have a mental health issue. Or, something that needs to be addressed. I don't want to be someone's sole reason they wake up or sole reason they smile or vice versa.
So that was a fantastic episode, guys.
It was.
You know what I'm saying? I think we talked candidly. I think we got into things we need to work on. I think we also got into the things that have been working for us as a community. Do we have any closing remarks? Things we would like to say before we close things out. You know what I'm saying? I want to take one more look at the camera.
You're a mess. I think I'm good.
I think ultimately, if I have any takeaway from the conversation is that it's not men against women. It's not what do men do. I think a lot of times we hear, there's an issue with black men, and there are. We definitely need to do better and be more responsible, and take more of a leadership and an ownership role in our community. And again, women need to be accountable more as well as the nurturers and providers of the family. But it's not man against woman. It's not, toxic masculinity is the issue. I see a meme the other day that said the future is female. I think but that's where we work backwards. Right.
There we go again.
We're working backwards. It's not men in charge, women in charge. The future is not female. The future is man and woman working side by side and coexisting together and building a strong unit.
Death to a Slave, available on all platforms. We'll see you guys next time.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Sayonara, deuces, peace.
Yo.
All of that.
Death to a Slave podcast episode.
Earning. I know you guys can ring some off the top of your head. Uber, Dropbox,
Box,
Netflix, passively.
Swing,
there it is.
Yeah.
So, I guess oftentimes people don't understand the difference. So it kind of speaks to your point about education, Da. And I don't mean to make light of this, but what I see on social sometimes is like, yo, start an LLC. Start an LLC. Like, it don't start
easy.
Like, listen. It don't
stop there. It don't stop there.
But start an LLC.
You seen the meme where it's like, yo.